The union budget is silent on stimulating mainstream real estate demand. Missed opportunity to infuse energy into the sector. Budget, a disappointment for the realty sector. These were the sentiments expressed by the key industry bodies who were pinning their hopes on the FM to give some solid dose of sops to revive residential demand. Well, nothing much came and the sector got no headline in the making. On Urban Reality today, we are asking a very basic question. Is the budget the panacea for all that's still dragging India's housing market down? Which of the industry's unfulfilled demands are valid and which ones were simply too optimistic? Welcome everyone. I'm Manisha Natarajan and joining me on today's debate, Niranjan Hiranandani, MD, founder Hiranandani Group, JC Sharma, Vice Chairman and MD, Shobha Developers, Gulam Zia, Executive Director, Knight Frank, Bhairav Dalal, Partner, PwC. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on this discussion. And I think, Mr. Hiranandani, the first question is to you. What was the biggest disappointment, or were we just as an industry asking for too much?
I think basically, dil mange more. I think the problem which has happened really is that I think the Prime Minister has set a very, very high target. He wants us to give housing for all by 2022. So we were all thinking that if you have to achieve that target, we need to have more SOPs in order to see that the money which is all going to the stock market and other areas should also be co-investing into real estate. Now, the point is, if the SOPs in the other market, whether manufacturing or industry or the stock market, is so beautiful that people are hesitant to put into real estate, where you have a 12% GST, you have a 5 to 6% stamp duty, plus all the local taxes. There is a kind of hesitancy.
Mr. Hiranandani, sorry to interrupt you, sir. Just want to ask you, are you talking from the perspective of the industry wanting to bring in more money into real estate or investing, or are you actually talking about the buyer looking at real estate as an asset class? Because I'm getting both sides of the story. I'm not able to
only the buyer,
distinguish
only the buyer,
between the two.
only the buyer, only the buyer,
okay.
Only the buyer. I'm very clear in my mind. We always talk from the buyer's perspective. The buyer has to co-invest into the whole thing, whether he's buying an apartment for himself in terms of a larger apartment or a second apartment or whatever it is doing for the purposes of investment into real estate. If he wants to tomorrow say that where should my next investment come, is it going to be in real estate? The options are definitely clear that he will not look at real estate with an aggressive manner, because the options in the other markets are much more easy in terms of investment because the taxes are much lower. I think that is the challenge. So when we are talking about the SOPs, so-called SOPs that we are talking, we are not. We are trying to bring it pari passu with the other industry SOPs which have already been given, and lots of them are there today. If I'm going to enter into a stock market, there is no stamp duty. There's nothing that you really have to pay, and the capital gains after 1 year, even after the increase, is only 10%. That's my grouse.
Okay. Okay, point taken, point taken. Let me go to Mr. Sharma. Mr. Sharma, are you equally disappointed? I mean, no extra disposable income in the hands of salaried middle class. Well, you did not get much of a change in any of the taxation benefits which comes from buying a house, either on the capital put in or on the interest on home loans. What has your assessment been, sir?
Manisha, you are right. All of us, we do look forward to the budget from a perspective that whether it is going to help my sector or not and my consumers or not. And we are used to that kind of an expectations. But if you really look at what has happened, our sector as far as is concerned, both from the buyer's perspective as well as from the developer's perspective, it has got much more than what we have ever got in last 1.5 years period. See, what they have done very clearly is, from a buyer's perspective today, on affordable homes, which is the thrust area for this government, NHB has no fund constraint. The industry has got infrastructure status. Buyer will be paying only 8% GST in place of 12% GST now. And at the same time, the fiscal incentives, which earlier was for a limited quantum, now it has been told that any quantum of homes we sell on a revised carpet area up to 110 meters square, right, a buyer with a household income of 18 lakhs rupees will get huge benefits. We will get income tax benefits on affordable housing. And as far as from Bangalore perspective, 17,000 crore has been planned to be invested for the suburban, which will keep Bangalore relatively more attractive. So when we go to the fine prints, and 25% income tax for the developers or for the MSMEs kind of a thing means 5% savings in the income tax also. So all put together net, when government needs 24 lakh crore, government has only 22 lakhs crore, they need to keep their fiscal deficit in balance. I think it is a balanced budget where we did not get much directly in the budget, but indirectly all the benefits what we have been looking for, it has not been withdrawn like in case of LTC or in other cases. That's my view.
Okay, all right. So we've got two opposing views here, though I must say that Mr. Hiranandani has also made a very public statement that we've got a lot, but there's still a lot more to be given. Ghulam Zia, what's your own opinion on the biggest demand that the industry had?
Our view is pretty clear that the focus of the government has been more on the bottom of pyramid and not just in real estate. I would say the macro picture, which is emerging very clearly, is that the budget focus has been on the bottom of pyramid for the masses. And the real estate that we cater to, unfortunately, is not even catering to more than 5 to 6% of the households of the country. And that is a reality which is very clearly evident, that these demands that the industry is making, for last whatever 10-15 years I have been watching are pretty much the same. Industry is not asking for anything new, but government has at one point or a time, sometimes small portions, small doses of incentives do come, but overall not much of a focus has been on real estate in any case. So instead of sitting and cribbing about it, I would rather say, as Mr. Sharma was talking about, focus more on where government also wants the efficiencies and efforts to come in, which is amassing for all, which is bottom of pyramid, which is really creating the lowermost end of the housing. For which I would also say that
move on.
Money
and
yes,
move
yes.
on.
Yeah,
move on, isn't it? All right. Okay, Bhairav Dalal, come in here. I mean, every year you have such a bucket list in terms of tax breaks that one can get. But some of these have been pretty rational tax demands. For example, things like vacant homes still to be taxed based on notional rent. Now, this, according to me, was a very valid demand from the industry to be reviewed. You want to create surpluses, but you're still wanting to tax vacant homes. How, I mean, sum it up for us. What could the government have done without denting its deficit anymore?
So I think overall the question is whether there was enough in it for real estate or not. Second, did we as industry expect too much? I think at some point of time we got a feeling that we are expecting too much out of it. Third, on some of these tax matters, there's a general consensus that status quo is good. Tinkering with the tax laws on an annual basis is not really the way to go for a developed nation, and we are getting there. So our view is overall the tax laws shouldn't have been tinkered. Yes, there was a very, very strong demand that the notional rent income tax should be done away with. Just the fact that it was brought in last year, I think it was too early for the withdrawal. It shouldn't have been brought in the first place, given that there's a lot of unsold inventory. But in a way, the government is passing on the message that don't hold on to the prices. If the prices needs to be corrected and sold, then go ahead and do it. Don't hold on to the stock. I think that's the message which is loud and clear.
Mr. Hiranandani, very quickly, I mean, three biggest disappointments from this budget and where there is actual dissonance with the government.
I think that notional income is a very big factor, because that part of it is really something which is staying, both in terms of the section where there is empty flats. I think that's really, really shocking. If you need to create surpluses, if you need to create housing, if you need to increase the amount of production that comes to it, you can't start having vacant flats to be done. Second, the ready reckoner rate correction of 5% is not happening. Even places like Nariman Point, the rate difference is more than 10% of the ready reckoner rate. You can get commercial premises at less than 10% of of the ready reckoner value. So obviously that's going to be a dangerous trend, which means that the sellers now cannot sell it at the lower rate, because otherwise they will be doubly taxed as far as the issues are concerned. And I think the third part of it is also the fact that we need to bring a pari passu position between co-investments into real estate and co-investments into the stock market. I think clearly people are differentiating this part of it, and if you need more investments, I mean, the issue is very clear. That if the investments into affordable housing need to be done, and the investments need to be supported in terms of whatever is there to be done, I think some more benefit is required, because you need to see that, should I put my money into stock market or should I put into real estate? That's the question that is not being answered towards the real estate.
You know, this
side.
was really not a question which was debated about 5 years ago. It was, people were distributing, in fact, largest chunk of India's household savings was going into real estate and not into stock markets. It's just that the needle is shifted, and that's coming back to pinch the demand in the residential sector of India. Well, let's come back and also take cognizance of the interest rate cycle going forward. Yesterday, RBI clearly signaled the end of rate cycles because it fears that inflationary pressures are too much on the economy. So 2018, which was meant to be a revival year for demand in housing sector, could that also now get affected with no sign of home loan rates coming down? Stay with us. One was hoping that 2018 will be a far better year for demand pickup in India's residential sector, and it could well be the case. Except now, one has to deal with the possibility of hardening interest rates, and that means more expensive home loans, also more expensive credit to the industry, which it simply cannot afford right now. Gulam Zia, last rate cut happened in August 2017, and very clearly we are not going to see any more. My question is, how closely is the buying sentiment related to the interest rates on home loans?
Well, it has a direct correlation. You know, it is a good motivator for a home buyer to extend his ability to finance his houses and go for something more than what he can afford on that day. So definitely there exists a direct correlation between housing finance, interest rates, etc., and the purchases and the consumption of houses. But on the other side, what has happened in last 2 years, if you're talking about the last rate cut coming in August, prior to that we must have seen at least 6-7 consecutive reductions, and what home loans on an average used to be in double digits came down to closer to 8%, etc. But has it really affected, has it really given a boost to the real estate market? Have houses started selling like hotcakes just because of such a big climb down? Well, honestly, the answer was no. So in any case, when no amount of this incentive or artificial energies infused in the markets are giving you the results that you desire, then obviously you have to relook at your decision. I'm not saying that taking the home loan rates up will have any adverse or otherwise reaction on the market.
Okay.
I would say we would still have to wait for demand to come back.
I think it's a very important point made. Mr. Sharma, what's your own take on it? I mean, you do have now CLSS scheme being extended to houses right up to 18 lakh income. Yet, if I look at the offtake of that even first 1,000 crore which had been handed out by the government, it has been very slow. So why is demand not coming back?
Manisha, the issue is not as simple as it looks to everyone from the outside. What I have observed is that there are so many factors, they need to come together for someone to take a call on buying a home A and going for a home loan. What government can do is basically, what I have experienced is becoming an enabler. And when they become the enabler, and if it is sustained for a relatively longer period, then people start realizing the benefit of that. All such things are having a deep impact in the overall structure of our business, from the customer's point of view as well as from the developer's point of view. I am quite confident and convinced that the benefits of interest is a real benefit which is being passed on. There is no savings incentive nowadays to people having money. You have to look at from that angle. If they put money in the stock market, 15% short term, 10% long term. If they put money in the gold,
Right,
no benefit. And India needs home. And 8%, 6%, 7% tax-paying interest versus 8% tax-exempted investment in a home is going to be quite beneficial. All such things need to be communicated, and through this medium or otherwise also, we are making our customers clear that it is the right time for you to go for loan and take advantage of your savings with so much of benefit being kicked into it. But yes, the demand is not taking or happening due to multiple other reasons. And just to imagine, had these steps not been taken, what would have happened to the demand otherwise? And on top of it, by nudging all of us to go for affordable homes, it does take time for us to plan when we have already existing inventory. But this nudging itself, you will see the benefits, where for the first time I can say with conviction that the qualitative growth in our real estate sector will be so secular that all of us will start making ourselves professionally or otherwise far more competent. Quality of borrowing, quality of divestment, quality of land bank, quality of size, prices, products, RERA, all such things, it has been put into place. And hopefully, as and when the situation starts beginning to look up, when 8% growth will be seen, you will see real estate sector outperforming by miles all the other sectors, in my view.
Okay, Bhairav, would you agree with that? I mean, in terms of affordable housing, whether it's GST or it's the fund of 25,000 which has been set up, all of this is saying, hey, go ahead, get into this sector, give a roof to everyone, and we are there to support you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if there is one subsector within real estate which is likely to do well and which is gaining a lot of importance, it is affordable housing. Even globally, you see a lot of investors are actually wanting to understand this entire affordable housing play in India and are willing to provide patient capital. I mean, they are not the guys who want 20% plus returns. They are happy with sub 15% return, and that's where a lot of these is leading towards the fact that we will see a much more wider affordable housing market. Affordable housing, in a way, it's a very subjective thing, but again, let's not go into that debate. But as long as the common man is getting a house.
We'll take anything. Bhairav, we'll take anything which is under 40 lakhs. I mean, there's so much pent-up demand.
Absolutely.
So, bill 10, bill 20, bill 25, 30, 40, right up to 40 lakhs, according to me, is affordable in this country for various levels of income. Mr. Hiranandani, always the final word to you, sir. How do we wrap out on an optimistic note for 2018 that, look, all of these things are going to fall into place and the buyers will slowly and steadily return? At least Mumbai market has already started looking up, both in terms of demand and price upticks.
I think I'm very, very positive about the whole market. The bottom of the pyramid is also being taken care of. Prime Minister's Awas Yojana has launched 51 lakh houses in this area and 51 lakh houses added in the year 2018-19. I think the bottom of the pyramid is being taken care of there. The affordable housing segment is done through incentivizing the private sector. So that's another sector that is taken care of. So almost, I would say, 60 to 70% of the market is taken care of. So a large portion of it is going to be driven by incentivization, through direct funding for these projects as is provided under the Prime Minister's grants, as well as the other segment which is going to take place. What I'm saying is that if we want to achieve the target, we needed to put these additional things. But I'm extremely bullish. The work is going to really take off, and this year you will see a huge amount of construction which is started in the affordable housing and that segment, which is extremely good for India. When I speak about the deficiencies which remain, I talk about it from a totality point of view. So good idea getting off the ground in the terms of whatever is taken up. Excellent.
On that note, I'm going to conclude here. Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani, Mr. Sharma, thank you so much for joining us. And Ghulam Zia and Bhairav Dalal, pleasure to have you gentlemen with me here on Urban Reality today. I'm going to wrap out with my take. Well, every bit from the government will help. But what really will help in reviving the buyer confidence is delivery of the stuck flats and honest above-board transactions. RERA's implementation has been patchy, we all know that. Courts are taking forever to bring any relief. New buyers will come, but most will come only for ready-to-move-in properties to avoid any risk. How do you bring the investor back who's willing to take risk? The industry will have to ponder on that and also get used to a new normal. Thank you so much for joining me.